New sellers struggle to make their first sale because their designs are mediocre at best. They simply don't know how to design, and I didn't either when I was starting out. In fact, I was so bad that I had to pay expensive designers just to have something that looked decent. But now that we have AI, you don't need to spend years practicing design or even spending a lot of money to work with designers. That's why in this video, I'm going to show you a copy-paste formula that you can drop straight into ChatGPT to create best-selling designs in any niche. And my goal with this video is that by the end, you're going to have my AI design formula so that you can create best-selling print-on-demand t-shirt designs with a click of a button. Now, maybe this is you, feeling sad, sitting in a booth, just drinking some coffee, and you're wondering why it seems like everyone can make best-selling designs except you. But why do people feel this way? Why do new sellers have this feeling that everybody can design well but me? And it's probably because we're simply throwing spaghetti at a wall and trying to see what exactly is going to stick. This typically happens with a lot of guesswork, trying things at random because we don't know what will work and what won't work, and a lot of hoping or praying that something just magically clicks and happens. But what if I told you you could generate designs that look like this? Do you think you'd be closer to making a sale? Now you're probably sitting there going, yeah, if my designs looked like that, I'd definitely be closer to making sales. Now, before we hop into my entire plug and play formula, we need to understand what makes a bad design. Because if we understand what makes a bad design, we're more likely to pick up what makes a design a good design later down the road. So 99% of sellers design something like this. They simply do no research or bad research. And this essentially is leading them to talking to nobody at all. They will learn very few things. This is like if you watched the trailer to a movie and assumed that you knew exactly what was going to happen. Like if this was a murder mystery movie, you'd watch the trailer and be like, I know it's that guy. I know he did it. And it probably wasn't him. They will apply even less. So this is like going to the gym and going twice and then realizing why don't you have six-pack abs? And then they're creating shallow surface level designs, which I'm going to show you a lot of examples in a few minutes. So just bear with me. And then the audience notices this lack of substance. The audience notices that these designs are surface level at best. And this is like showing up to class. We can think back to high school, middle school, and going to class without completing our homework. This cycle unfortunately repeats over and over. It leads to frustration and ultimately burnout. And finally, it leads to people saying print on demand just doesn't work. That is like the biggest myth in the world, that nothing can work. If somebody is successful at it, it can work. It's like saying if one person invests money and like everybody else just didn't, it'd be like, well, the stock market just doesn't work. No, it could just be you're picking bad stocks to invest in. And the same thing happens here with print on demand. People will just get upset and then they will say print on demand doesn't work, and then they'll move on to the next side hustle that they're looking at or the next shiny object. So what are some of these shallow surface level designs that we need to avoid? Well, the first one that we need to avoid is we don't want to pack a ton of tiny text into our designs like this because it's ultra fine. We're not going to stop somebody from scrolling. If anything, nothing about this catches my eye whatsoever. In fact, one of the craziest things is that there's actually a spelling error on it. So even if it does catch your eye, you're like, well, I don't want to go and buy that design. It's spelled wrong. You have caffeine spelled wrong. Now, another thing that you don't want to do is use more than 6 to 8 colors unless you are screen printing for a specific effect, just because it typically doesn't print well. So we want to keep things kind of more to 2 to 3, maybe 4 colors. And the last thing is we don't want to assume that the buyer is ever going to just zoom in on our design. So designs like this, stay away from them. Now, the second design don't that you want to avoid is basically making these big square boxy designs, because that's just going to fill every square inch of that 15 by 15 print area. You're going to essentially have none of the t-shirt playing into effect of the design. And essentially it just makes the print look cheap. Like if you were able to use some of the color, like as you can see on my logo here, like in between the W, that is negative space. So it's utilizing the actual sweatshirt to play a role in the print. And that's something that stands out to people and catches their eyes. The next thing you don't want to do is copy posters or mugs or other product layouts directly onto your shirt. A lot of people will think that if you are just creating one design, you can plaster it across every single product and it's fine. No, each product has its specific best practices. And unfortunately, I think the Redbubbles of the world kind of ruined this for sellers getting into print on demand now, because they're under the assumption of, oh, I create one design, I plaster it across every single product that I could possibly think of, and that will increase my chances of getting sales. No, there are specific design styles for t-shirts, for mugs, for stickers, etc. And so whatever product we are selling, we want to be using those best practices when it comes to creating designs for them. We don't want to use styles that buyers don't expect for apparel in our niche, and we don't want to ignore layout flows or print-friendly typography. These typographies, they don't look bad, but they're not great for a t-shirt. This to me would look more like a mug type of font. Okay, a few more, bear with me, and then we're jumping right into the formula. You don't want to use low contrast colors. See how you can barely see this design here? That is because they picked a print that is almost the exact same color as the shirt. That is not going to catch anybody's eye. It's not going to stop somebody from scrolling. You can barely see the design. We don't want to overuse gradients. Try to use neon or any effects that won't print well. A lot of times we'll try like this glittery effect. It does terrible. So we want to avoid those kind of fancy like designs. Keep it more simple, more basic. And finally, we don't want to skip underbase printing on dark shirts. So again, we don't want this dark font color. We want it to be a contrast. We want it to jump out. If you wanted to keep this, just put like some sort of white outline around, the planets. So you could keep it pretty close to being this dark gray, but you could still find ways to make this design pop out. Now, we don't want to use fonts that are thin or too small. As you can see, you can barely read this design here. And you don't want to mix too many fonts or styles, because a lot of times they can conflict and not all fonts work well together. And finally, you don't want to forget about reading the design from 6 feet away, because we need to remember people are buying these t-shirts to really catch the attention of somebody or to show off their design. If you can't read it from a good distance away, people probably aren't going to buy it or want to purchase it. And they'll probably be able to see that honestly in your mock-up. Now, this is the last one. You don't want to use the same AI chat for every single design, because you'll end up getting designs like this that all just, they're different, but they all just feel the same. You know what I mean? Like, I don't look at this and get any differentiation from any of them. You don't want to repeat trending prompts that everybody else is using. So, it's important to use some, but again, we want to differentiate. We want our designs to all feel different and unique. And finally, don't let your designs feel like generic stock art. So like this, you don't want them all to just feel like the exact same thing over and over again. Now, before we get into the formula, if you're interested in grabbing this board so that you can have all the prompts, you can come back and refer to this time and time again, just click the link in the description below. I'll send it right to your inbox. So instead of guessing and preparing designs like 99% of sellers do, we're going to use the formula. And if you love SpongeBob, ravioli, give me the formioli. So enough about that. Let's get into this formula. So this is our 3-step design equation that allows us to design with intention. There's 3 areas that are going to make up this formula. The first being our print press, which is essentially how the printer will print our design. And I didn't really think about this too much in the beginning when AI was coming out and we were learning the best ways to prompt, because I was like, how would that have an effect on the AI generation? I just never thought of leveraging the type of print press in the prompt. But essentially, when you think about it and you break it down, if we're essentially telling AI how it's going to be printed, it's going to use the best practices for getting the best prints for that print press. So that's step number 1. Step number 2 is our design style. So we're going to tell the AI the exact style that we're looking for, exactly what we want, whether that's vintage, grunge, it could be modern, streetwear, you name it. The design style is going to help the AI come up with really great styles to create that design. And then finally, the mood. So what kind of emotion are we trying to invoke from our customer? And when we put all 3 of these together, we end up with winning designs. So I'm going to break this down and show you. So step one, print press. Again, this is how the graphic design actually goes on a t-shirt. And we want to think of it physically. Even though we aren't physically doing this, it's going to help the image generator understand what we are looking for when it comes to the graphic design. And so there are tons of different print styles. As you can see, there's plastisol, water-based, discharge print, puff ink, high density, crackle, vintage distress, foil transfer, glitter shimmer, which we would want to avoid because we already know it's not going to print well. Glow in the dark, probably not going to print well. Simulated process, DTG, DTF, HTV, dye sublimation. There are even more than this. This is not every print press style that is known to man. This is just what, we were able to get from ChatGPT. It's important to note that there is a ton of different types that are used around the world globally. Now, step number 2 of the formula is our design style. This is the art of the graphic design. So what kind of style are we trying to tell the AI to come up with? Are we looking for Y2K, minimalist line art, chrome, 3D metallic, retro, punk, surreal, naturecore, you name it. This was just us asking ChatGPT, like, hey, what are some, of the most common print styles for 2025? And this was a list of 10 that I came up with. So there's lots of these styles. Definitely we want to go out and, find what we think is going to work best for our brand and our niche. But we want to note that this is not all of them. So there are so many good styles out there that are not listed here. So definitely ask ChatGPT for a full breakdown on different art styles that look great on t-shirts within your particular niche. Because a lot of times when you're able to give kind of clear examples or clear inspiration to the AI, it's going to be able to, define those styles a lot better. Now, finally, we have number 3, which is mood. And this is essentially what we want someone to feel when they are looking at our t-shirt. And this is something that's huge and really important. A lot of times when we are creating designs, we're not necessarily thinking of the emotion that it could potentially intrigue or get out of our buyer. A lot of times we just will look at the design, we'll go, oh, that looks so nice. I think I would buy that. So everybody else would definitely want to buy it. It's not always the case. But when we're trying to invoke an emotion, we have a way better chance of people connecting with our design and actually wanting to purchase it, because people are going to purchase based off of emotion, not their logic. So some of the different moods that we could put into our design would be funny, sarcastic, irrelevant, punny, whimsical, snarky, motivational, empowering, nostalgic, dark humor, rebel, feel good. It goes on and on. I'm sure you could get a list of 100 different feelings that you could potentially have. Now, these are all great, all 3 of these steps, but I'm not sure which combinations of these 3 would actually make the best t-shirts. So how exactly do I figure that out? And the answer to that is we let our competitors tell us. You can either, go out and find these competitors that are within the same niche as you, or even brands that have a style that you really like. So like if you're really into the look of Vineyard Vines and you want to apply that to your dog brand, you can absolutely do that. You can give ChatGPT, say, I really like the style of Vineyard Vines, but essentially we need to tweak it to this. The AI is going to do a great job with that. So what we do is we take our list of competitors and we simply ask ChatGPT to do a print press, graphic style, and mood analysis on the brands that we are giving them. And when we do this, here we used Takeout Order as an example. They're in the golf niche. And ChatGPT gave us the graphic design style, the mood, and the print style that we can use, all based off of just taking a look at their site and their designs and breaking everything down for us. So by doing this, we now have one design equation for us to use. And we can use these equations over and over again to create different designs. So based off of the equation that we got here, we were able to create these 3 different golf designs. And I don't know about you, but these designs are definitely catching my eye way more than any of the designs over here. None of these are, catching my eye and allowing me to think that's going to be a bestseller. So now that we're making these best-selling designs, what do we then do next with them? What we ultimately want to do is then take those designs that we've created and upload them to a print provider. And that's why I want to stop here and thank the sponsor of today's video, Printify. I've been working with Printify since 2020 when I started my print on demand journey. And the reason that we're talking about them today is because not only do you need best-selling designs to start building your brand, but you also need a print provider that you can rely on. Now, Now, here are the things that I look for from my print provider and why Printify stands out from their competition. I am constantly looking for 4 different things. I'm looking for the cheapest pricing. I want control over my business. I want fast shipping speeds, as well as quality of products and prints. And Printify does all 4 of these. Now, they always have the best pricing because they have Printify Premium. Printify Premium is going to allow you to take up to 20% off of the price that you would pay for a product. So for a $29 membership fee, you essentially are getting a 20% discount. So you have to just be making a few sales for this to really make sense. And it saves you a ton when it comes to your cost of goods. 2 is that it gives you control over your business. You are able to manually select your print provider, which is essentially allowing you to shop around and get the best pricing, the best shipping speeds, as well as the best quality. Printify does this by giving us a rating of our printer, so we can compare these ratings between other print providers to really choose the best for our brand. It'll break down the quality as well as the production speed and even the shipping speed of that printer. So they give you so much control that typically you don't get with any other print provider. Most of them, you're stuck with whoever they print with. You're stuck with the shipping speeds. There's no way for you to reroute or find different printers if you're having any sort of issue. But Printify lets you do that. So if you're interested in trying out Printify and you want a free month of Printify Premium for free, just click the link in the description below and use the code WeScale to get 1 month of Printify Premium completely for free. So when we're creating best-selling designs and we have a print provider that we can rely on, we are then able to create a killer brand. Now, if this video interested you and you're interested in more in-depth print-on-demand content like this, please like and subscribe to my channel. It would absolutely mean the world to me. If you want this board so that you can create your own design formulas, just click the link in the description below. I'll send it right to your inbox. Other than that, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.